The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
The Pharisees and some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered round Jesus, and they noticed that some of his disciples were eating with unclean hands, that is, without washing them. For the Pharisees and the Jews in general follow the tradition of the elders and never eat without washing their arms as far as the elbow, and on returning from the marketplace, they never eat without first sprinkling themselves. There are also many other observances which have been handed down to them concerning the washing of the cups and pots and bronze dishes. So these Pharisees and scribes asked him, "Why do your disciples not respect the tradition of the elders, but eat their food with unclean hands?" He answered, "It was of you hypocrites that Isaiah so rightly prophesied in this passage of Scripture. This people honors me only with the lip service, while their hearts are far from me. The worship they offer me is worthless. The doctrines they teach are only human regulations. You put aside the commandment of God to cling to human traditions." He called the people to him again and said, Listen to me, all of you, and understand. Nothing that goes into a person from outside can make him unclean. It is the things that come out of a person that makes one unclean. For it is from within, from human hearts, that evil intentions emerge: fornication, theft, murder, adultery, avarice, malice, deceit, indecency, envy, slander, pride, and folly. All these evil things come from within and make a person unclean. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Those who are in the chapel, so I just a reminder, there are 4 more seats in the front if you like to come this side to the main church. So those who like, I will not be disturbed if you come immediately now. There are 4 seats in front. The human and divine element in religion, as I started introduction, so as I said, so there are human elements and divine elements. So divine elements, those are to be practiced. So those we need to strictly follow them, obey them. But on the other hand, human regulations or human values, sometimes they change according to the situations, circumstances, they change. Something like leaving the safe home environment, young people go to college studies. So they go to hostels or maybe to different countries they go for studies, and they find totally in a different situation and they are confused many things. Maybe there may be some friends or maybe a professor who is talking to them so about a very good book, so he criticizing, making mockery of that book, so which this person always held in high esteem. So then more confusion comes in the life of that young person. And then to remove that young person, and there may be many other reasons why the person may be confused in such situations. So as I said, it may be from other persons, maybe from other countries, so they are confused. Just like just this week I had one email, so on the web, our church email, so there was a person who has come from a different country. The person is asking which day is the obligation day here. So you see, there is a confusion. So when you go to a different place and different situation, so you are confused. So I think So this is how we clarify things, and then it is put in place, everything. Because we need to make a distinction between what God has made. God made rules like, so regulations or the laws, and human in religion. What is God made and what is human in every religion. So we find everywhere it is. Observing human laws means preserving human values. So we also respect a humanity. So there is humanness. So we respect that. Something like, so we have traffic rules. So do we reflect why these are? Sometimes we may be cursing those traffic rules also. Something, it should have been like that and like this and all. Of course, that could have been like that. You may be the wise person, but then they have thought of it and they have made such rules, traffic laws they have made, so for our own good. Otherwise, there will be a lot of accidents, confusions on the road, the traffic. So you see, the tax laws. So sometimes we are obliged to pay certain taxes. But then we start, so why we question? Maybe certain taxes are right. And we need to question them also. So not that we should not question, we need to question for what and where it goes, how it comes. Does it come back to us? So whether it is used properly. So all these things are the questions that we need to reason out for everything. There are church laws. So we are given the church laws so we follow them. So for our own good and for the good of the organizing the church. So there are divine laws. So there are all type of laws that we find so everywhere as we live our life. Christian maturity dictates that observing human laws means serving human values. Observing divine laws means we are observing divine values. The divine values also help the human values. So this is how Jesus is trying to tell today. So he distinguishes. Moses, in the first reading we saw, so how he speaks to the people. So God-given laws. Those were the laws. So what we call is the 10 Commandments. Sacred laws, those are meant for all time, for all people. But after that, people started making many other sub-laws. So how to observe that law? So each law, so how to observe them? There are 613, and then there are more traditions. So they went on adding to them. So these are just a help actually. So these rules and traditions, so observances which they had. When Jesus came, so they started doing all, still they were practicing. Some of them were not necessary because they were practicing for the sake of Messiah. Messiah is coming, so we have to do. So but then they went on continuing. So even after Jesus going, we find there are a lot of confusions created in the early church. Early church, they had problem whether they should follow the Jewish laws or whether they should abandon them. So there was a lot of confusion. We find also the struggles Paul and Peter had. So and then Paul goes a step ahead and tells, so these laws are Jewish laws. Now we are following Jesus. So they are all changed. So Jesus' laws we need to follow. Similarly, we find also many other laws in the church also, changes. Just for example, one example I give, so how it changed. Earlier, to take communion, so people used to fast 24 hours, then 12 hours, so then 4 hours, 3 hours, then 1 hour, still it is 1 hour supposed to be. And then there are also other practices they were having. So earlier, around the altar, there were kneelers. So kneelers where people used to come, kneel down and receive communion on the tongue. So around the altar only. So not inside the church, but only around the altar. Only around the altar. That means Holy of Holies is only here. So this was the practice. Afterwards, we started distributing communion down, and then now in the hand. People have confusion, people have problem. Times are changing, and especially in today's world. So we need to change according to the times. because they are human laws, the human traditions. They are built up according to the traditions and the need of the people. Jesus revolutionized all these laws, so which they were practicing. Not so much laws, but then he revolutionized the traditions which the Jewish people had, the Pharisees and the scribes. So in fact, they were the faithful people. When there was persecution, so people were leaving and going, so these were the ones who vowed to remain faithful. They remained strong. In fact, they used to observe all things. Even after that, they were observing all things. But true religion does not consist in external observances, so that they give more importance to external observance. Jesus wants to tell that it is internal attitude, internal value that we have. That is more important. A small group of people these are, but still they created lot of irritation to Jesus, confusion to Jesus, and also certain times there was anger from the part of Jesus in order to mellow them or to teach them the good things, the right things. This group always boasted. They were arrogant. They thought they are the only holy one. And they went on adding rules upon rules. Jesus is telling, so externally you may be practicing. Inside you are something like tomb. The filthy things, rotten things, the bones, so that you find. So it is like that. So therefore you need to change. Originally, all these religions, so all those practices are intended in order to symbolize the inner realities. The external or outward signs are inward devotion that we have for God. So whether we kneel down, whether we bow, whether we fold our hand, all these are internal attitudes that we have. So what is internal, so we will show externally. When we fold our hands and bow, it's a humility, simplicity, humbleness, worship. So all these internal attitudes, so that we show. So this is how, so we are supposed to do that. So our external things, they are not just for observance, just for showing externally, but it is inward reality, inner realities to show. Therefore, Jesus criticizes these rituals. So in itself, he did not criticize only the ritual for the sake of rituals, but then when they followed them, giving them unnecessary, extraordinary importance, he said, so that is not required. So what is important, pay attention to that. Love of God, the care of one another, so that is more important. Why don't you pay attention to that? Today, as we go from here, certainly we need to take something for our life. The first thing that we want to learn is we need to keep the spirit of the church laws and practices. So whatever we may be doing, the obligations that we say, it is not just for the sake of obligation we come here. It's our need. It's really our need, because we are human, and then we need always the divine support, divine strength. Therefore we come. So when there was pandemic, we were struggling. So quite often we started asking when the church is going to open. Of course we have all restrictions now, but still we have the opportunity to come to church. It's a privilege that we have. And certainly, so we should take it as an opportunity, as a privilege to come to church, so that we can experience God's strength. So we can give thanks to God so very closely in this Eucharist. There are practices we need to do also in our homes also. So prayers, something like prayers, so what we have, so where we can thank together as a family. So we thank God for all the blessings received. And we also ask the Lord to keep us closer in unity as a family. The spirit of unity, the spirit of love in the family is important, and also that comes, and that strength comes from the prayer. So as we unite ourselves together. Secondly, let us try to avoid all tendency to become cafeteria Christians, so supermarket Christians. So we go there and we just start choosing, pick and choose. Our faith is not like that. So what are the divine laws? So those we need to follow. What are human laws? So maybe that according to the situation we may have to change. And certainly that will bring a lot of goodness in our life. Divine law brings divine blessings. Human laws also bring a lot of human blessings, means goodness from one another, love from one another. So as we celebrate this Holy Eucharist, let us ask the Lord, as St. James is telling us, to be the hearers of the word as well as doers of the word. So what Jesus is telling us, let us ask the strength and grace so that we may be able to remain close to Jesus and experience His strength in order to follow what the Word is telling us, and especially the divine laws to follow. So in order to strengthen our life, strengthen our weaknesses, and strengthen our faith. God bless you.